Do you remember licensed games? Okay, that is a bit of an ill-posed question. I mean, it's not like licensed games have ceased to exist. Let's take a step back real quick. And don't worry, this is a video about SpongeBob games, just trust me while we get there. The concept of licensed games dates all the way back to the 1970s, with the first recorded licensed game being Sega's Fonz arcade cabinet in 1976. This game features the beloved character Fonzie from the popular 70s sitcom Happy Days, and wow, the similarities are striking. A few years later, in 1979, Atari released an official Superman game for the Atari 2600, which is often seen as the first movie tie-in game ever created. Yup, just like the movies. From here, licensed games continued to become more and more normalized, with titles like E.T. and DuckTales in the 80s, Aladdin and GoldenEye in the 90s, and with the rise of home consoles in the late 90s and early 2000s, way too many games to count throughout the 2000s. So, where did they all go? It's undeniable that in recent years, there's been a noticeable decrease in the quality and quantity of licensed games. To be fair, the whole industry's seen a drop in quality and fewer big-name releases. Between the exponentially rising development costs and the commodification of the industry, games that are made to be truly enjoyable or even an artistic medium are few and far between, with lots of low-effort garbage being pumped out to fill in the gaps. But I digress. Getting back on topic, the industry-wide shift has had an observable impact on the licensed video game market. Think about it for a second. What big licensed game released in the past few years? Sure, Spider-Man 2 is pretty good, but I would like to actually play the game. I can beat the entirety of Bluey the video game in less than half that time. Nowadays, licensed games are either low-effort garbage meant to trick parents into buying it for their kids, or live service slop meant to rob you of your time and shove overpriced microtransactions down your throat, with a cinematic blockbuster experience popping up once every few years if we're lucky. I won't pretend like there weren't always slop licensed games. We all know about Superman 64 and E.T., and I personally own whatever the hell this is. However, back then there were also so many more games that, while not necessarily mainstream, established large cult followings. While some games like GoldenEye completely pushed the boundaries of certain genres of gaming, others simply refined existing formulas to create fun games that immersed us in some of our favorite worlds. Some of my favorite licensed games were just that. Rehashed formats that provided incredibly enjoyable experiences with a coat of paint that let me explore some of my most cherished childhood media in a different form. I, of course, am talking about SpongeBob games. Some of the most iconic licensed games came from unexpected places, and for my generation, that meant SpongeBob. From Battle for Bikini Bottom to whatever this was, SpongeBob's game catalog is practically a microcosm of the genre itself. Hell, I love Battle for Bikini Bottom so much that I not only played it once, nor twice, but yeah, you know what? My childhood must have been pretty depressing. When I was a kid, SpongeBob games were the shit. I mean, some of them were literally the shit. But games like Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game are objectively cult classics, with a lot of what I consider underrated gems also coming out back to back. Growing up in the 2000s, we literally had a new SpongeBob game release every single year, sometimes even multiple times in a year. However, in the 2010s, SpongeBob games started to become scarce. The releases started to become more spread out, and the games themselves sucked. In 2015, SpongeBob Hero Pants was released as a tie-in for the Sponge Out of Water movie, becoming the last SpongeBob game release of the decade. Darksiders, The Blob, Destroy All Humans. What do these games have in common? If you said you get to play as a weird little alien guy, I mean, you're not wrong, but that's also not what I'm getting at. All three of these games were published by THQ. Throughout the 2000s, THQ was everywhere. Not only did they have their own IPs that garnered their own cult followings, but they were responsible for a lot of the licensed games as well. Scooby-Doo, Jimmy Neutron, and of course, SpongeBob. THQ is known for buying up a bunch of licenses to create games from, so much so that they had to file for bankruptcy. In 2010, THQ began suffering financial hardship, and after years of being unable to recover, they eventually sold off a bunch of their assets and shut their doors. But that's not where the story ends. When THQ was selling off their assets, the majority of their game licenses were bought up by a company called Nordic Games. In 2014, Nordic Games bought the rights to the THQ brand, and in 2016, they were officially reviving the company and rebranding as THQ Nordic. Unfortunately, one of the few licenses they had not secured was their Nickelodeon license. This was instead acquired by Activision, the company known for stealing employees' breast milk, who sat on the license basically doing jack shit with it. Once this license expired, Nickelodeon began working with smaller publishers to license games out to, and THQ Nordic was one of them. They were officially back in business. In 2018, THQ Nordic acquired the game development studio Purple Lamp Studios, and that same year they officially announced their partnership with Nickelodeon in a press release. A list of game franchises planned for revival was posted, and on that list was SpongeBob. Speculation began circulating about Battle for Bikini Bottom getting remastered, and in 2019, that speculation became reality. Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated was announced, and the excitement was real, and in 2020 the game released to moderately great success. Successful enough at least that Purple Lamp got the green light to create their own SpongeBob game, which turned out to be SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake. I loved Battle for Bikini Bottom, and the remake was incredible, so when I saw The Cosmic Shake was a supposed spiritual successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom, I was excited. However, I don't know why, but I never got around to playing it. Today, I want to play through this game for the first time and determine whether this spiritual successor lives up to the original, and if this may be an indicator that SpongeBob games are truly returning. Just to be clear, this isn't your traditional Let's Play. It's not a review. Instead, this will be a highly edited and narrated playthrough of the game containing my genuine thoughts and reactions, followed by a brief retrospective that attempts to answer whether this game is a return to the glory days. So, get some snacks, relax, and let's jump in. Oh, hi there! If you're seeing this, it means I'm dead. Hopefully I died doing something cool like drowning in a diving accident searching for the real Bikini Bottom, but statistically speaking I probably died in a car crash. Anyways, the reason I'm here today is because I made a promise. You see, on my last SpongeBob video, I said that if I made it to 500 subscribers, I would eat a sponge. And thanks to all of you incredible people, we smashed that goal. So today, I wanted to fulfill that promise. Well, here we go. The game begins with our friendly yellow sponge getting ready to go on a trip to Glove World with his best friend Patrick. Immediately, we are thrown into Bikini Bottom, which serves as this game's hub world. We annoy Squidward, check up on Patrick, who left a note saying to come back after his alarm wakes him up, and decide to see what the rest of SpongeBob's acquaintances are up to. After a brief stroll down the road, we come across Plankton's computer wife, Karen, who appears to be standing in front of a boat wreck that is blocking the road. The tutorial begins, introducing us to the most important part of a platformer: the platforming. We jump over the wreck and make our way to talk to Sandy. Sandy tells us she needs help cleaning her yard, and we're introduced to our main form of attack, the bubble wand. We break the tikis and... what's this? So it turns out this game has awards, which is basically just a list of challenges that give you an achievement once completed. If you know anything about me, you know I am a completionist to a fault, so you can bet SpongeBob's quadratic ass that throughout the course of this video, I will be doing all of these. It took me less than 5 seconds before I started slapping random citizens, only to find that there is also an award for doing that. After harassing a group of fish, we are granted our first award. One neat feature of these awards is it displays the timestamp you achieved it down to the milliseconds. While this is probably insignificant to most people, this feature is perfect for tracking my PB in the Assault the Locals % speedrun category. After helping Sandy, we return to Patrick's Rock to finally find him awake and ready to go to Glove World.
One loading screen later.
During this cutscene, we find our sea creatures giddy with excitement to be at Glove World, but after seeing a group of cool kids nonchalantly performing juggling tricks, SpongeBob quickly becomes depressed over being uncool and having no talents. A wagon full of junk mysteriously appears out of nowhere, and SpongeBob comes across the MacGuffin. Sorry, I meant the magic bubble soap. The mermaid in charge of the wagon sells it to us, as being able to grant us our deepest wishes, so SpongeBob and Patrick take it back home. SpongeBob grants a bunch of wishes to all of his friends, but it turns out that this is no ordinary magic bubble soap.
Hey SpongeBob, what does it mean when it says, "Only those of innocent heart may harness the power of the mermaid tears"?
I guess it means I was destined to find this bubble soap.
Hey, wait. It also says, property of King Neptune. Not for use by mortals. Use sparingly and with caution.
The residents get sucked up by magic portals, Bikini Bottom is ravaged by a blue jelly-like substance, and Patrick has been turned into a balloon.
Who would have thought that a magic potion from a mysterious fortune teller in a sketchy wagon could backfire?
It's now up to SpongeBob to fix this mess. Upon regaining control, we resume being given tutorials for the rest of the core mechanics. First, we come across this game's main collectible currency, this purple jelly. This is similar to the shinies from Battle for Bikini Bottom, and later in the game we can use this to buy new costumes once we unlock them. We continue on and are taught about ground pounding and gliding, and once we make it to the site of the Krusty Krab, we are introduced to our first combat encounter. The main enemies in this game are these purple jelly monsters, and for now it has us fighting the basic variant of them. Our core abilities are the bubble wand and a new dodge mechanic that gives us some invincibility frames, which does make the combat a bit more dynamic compared to Battle for Bikini Bottom. After rescuing Plankton, he yells at us before we are called over by the mermaid who originally sold us the bubble soap back at Glove World.
Find the portal that suits your costume. Once you have located your friends, you can use the magic bubble wand to return them home.
With that, the tutorial has concluded, and we make our way to the first stage of this game. We begin the stage falling out of the portal into a Wild West themed dimension and landing on a seahorse. The game throws us right into this auto-scroller where we have to ride the seahorse downhill, which immediately introduces us to this new riding mechanic that will be utilized occasionally throughout the game. We're cut off by a train and launched off the seahorse when we come across Posterfish. We tell him we're looking for Mr. Krabs, and he says to talk to the sheriff of Manta Fe. And yes, I did laugh at that pun during my playthrough. After making our way across a short and linear platforming section, Manta Fe appears in the distance just as Mrs. Puff speeds past us in her buggy. Due to reasons, we follow Mrs. Puff hoping she knows where Mr. Krabs is. We embark through another linear platforming section and acquire a new ability on the way. The Bubble Button ability allows us to throw a bubble with SpongeBob's Bubble Wand, which lets us press buttons from a distance and can also be used in combat to temporarily stun enemies. We finish making it across this platforming section and arrive at Mrs. Puff's riding school. There is a joke to be made here, but I'm going to show some self-restraint and not do it. When asked about the location of a crab, she also directs us to Manta Fe. She says she won't give us a ride, but we can take a riding test to acquire a license so we can ride a seahorse to town. Before doing that though, I take a quick look around. I don't know about you, but as a completionist myself, I always start by scanning every corner of a new game. You see, I hate using guides, as I believe they take away from the experience of finding secrets that the developers intended for the player to find on their own. Instead, I find myself constantly trying to scale high places and survey the area to make sure I'm not missing anything, and to also learn any patterns in the way collectibles are hidden. I don't know, let me know in the comments if this is something you do as well, or if I'm just neurodivergent. Anyways, after looking around, I find a golden spatula tucked away to the side, so I do a little platforming and grab it. There are a total of 8 golden spatulas, 1 in each of the 7 stages, plus 1 in the hub world. I also scaled Mrs. Puff's school and spotted our first golden doubloon. There are 70 of these total across all 8 zones, and collecting enough of them is what allows us to purchase new costumes. These can be found scattered throughout the world or can also be earned from puzzles, minigames, and side quests, as you will see in a bit. Of course, I'm going to collect all of these collectibles, but for the sake of the video, I will only really mention ones that are notable for one reason or another. I collect the doubloon and continue on with the main objective. We hop aboard another seahorse, but now we can dash. So, we dash through the test, earn our license, and head up to Manta Fe. I do a little platforming challenge across the rooftops to collect another golden doubloon, as well as this little shooting gallery minigame. Afterwards, we enter the saloon to talk to the sheriff. It turns out the sheriff is Sandy, and she wants us to beat her in a cactus soda showdown before she's willing to help us find Mr. Krabs. Our conversation is interrupted by jelly monsters, so we fight them off in a short bar brawl before facing off in the showdown. This gameplay is riveting. Look, I get they wanted to add some variety, but this is the best they could come up with? Mashing a single button? Anyways, the showdown is cut short due to running out of soda. Apparently, the notorious outlaw, the red-handed bandit, has been stealing all of the cactus juice, so Sheriff Sandy asks us to fetch some from Cactus Hills so we can continue the showdown and she can help us find our crab friend. We head outside and are introduced to our first new enemy variant. This totally distinct enemy that we've never seen before shoots tartar at us that we have to dodge as we run up on him and smack him. He also has a health bar above his head, indicating that we need to hit him twice to defeat him. After a short fight, a familiar-looking stranger emerges and offers to help us harvest the cactus juice for a cut. So we hop on a seahorse and ride up to Cactus Hills to meet the stranger there. Once we reach the stranger, we're tasked with collecting cactus juice. Here, we have a pretty long platforming section to reach the cacti and collect their juice. We harvest the first one, and after climbing pretty high up, we come across our next new enemy type. This blob of jelly is similar to the robot spawner from Battle for Bikini Bottom. It constantly spawns jelly monsters until it's destroyed, and is a bit tougher to fight than the robot spawners. After defeating it, we harvest the second cactus and drop down to deposit the juice. We make our way to the next area. Here, we have a few forced combat sections to collect the next set of cacti. We deposit this juice, then platform up some scaffolding to collect the final set. While trying to deposit the final batch of juice, we fall into an Alaskan bull wormhole. We find a gold miner and ask him if we can use the elevator, but he wants us to find his lost gold tooth first. So, we do his fetch quest and ride the elevator back to the surface. We see a train stealing the juice we just collected and chase after it. Of course, it's no other than the red-handed bandit, who, believe it or not, turned out to be Mr. Krabs all along. We catch up to the train and hop on board. We pursue Mr. Krabs through the train, completing a series of platforming sections and mini combat challenges. While this essentially serves as the final boss of this level, there really isn't much more to it than this series of challenges. Eventually, we corner him and he's apprehended before bringing him back to the home dimension. Did you know that not all crabs walk sideways? It's generally quicker for them to do so, but most of them do have the capability to walk forward, so it's not unrealistic for Mr. Krabs to walk the way he does. On top of that, Mr. Krabs is based off of the red ghost crab, which can run at speeds of up to 10 miles per hour when running sideways on land. Just remember that next time you see Mr. Krabs, he's not even running at his maximum speed. Upon returning to Bikini Bottom, we find Plankton in need of help. He wants us to activate the crane to lift the chum bucket upright, but he can't reach the button. We learn a new ability, the bubble board, which allows us to hop aboard these bubble surfboards and reach the button. We talk to Plankton again, who thanks us and gives us our first side quest. That's right, this game has side quests. As opposed to finding gold doubloons lying around or earning them from puzzles, all of the Bikini Bottom gold doubloons are earned through side quests. Pretty much all of these side quests require you to go into previous stages and scour for some quest-specific collectible, which we'll go over later. This side quest, however, has us trying to find where Spot is hiding in each of the stages. So we will be doing that one as we progress. And if you don't know who Spot is, apparently it is Plankton's pet amoeba. Yeah, I had to look that up as well. We talk to the mermaid again, who gives us our karate outfit, which allows us to enter the new portal by Sandy's treehouse. The portal throws us into a movie set where a karate film is being shot and SpongeBob is the main character. We're greeted by Pearl, who is the director's assistant, and she leads us to the director. We walk the red carpet and emerge outside where we meet yet another new enemy type. The big jelly is slow and tanky, swinging around a bathtub as its main form of attack. It takes 3 hits to kill and can only be damaged when it is stunned, such as after successfully dodging its attack. After fighting our first big jelly, we press a button to open a door into the next area, where we find that the movie director is none other than Squidward.
What squirt of an actor did those at the agency lay upon me? I promised them art, and how do they repay me?
Okay, but what word did Squidward use? Squidward seems a bit upset about the casting decision, but rolls with it anyway. This puts us into our first movie scene, which is just this auto-scrolling side-scroller section where we fight waves of enemies and do a bit of platforming. While this section itself is not very difficult, there is one major challenge that I struggle to overcome. Collecting this shit-ass coin. What? Because I was too far ahead? Are you kidding me? This section is incredibly tedious, and this stupid coin is sitting here near the end of this section. That means every time I miss the coin, I need to get 75% of the way through just to have another attempt at it. The side view locked perspective makes this fairly tight platforming pretty difficult, and if we fall behind or even go too far ahead, we have to start over. Eventually, I grab the coin and finish the section. But at what cost? We continue on until we come across Squidward once again. He teaches us our next new ability, the karate kick, and this has to be my favorite ability of the entire game. Not only does this ability add a whole new layer of movement allowing us to zip around the map, but it can also be used in combat. You can argue that this ability makes the combat stupidly easy, but it's just so damn fun. We reach a combat section that introduces us to a new enemy type that forces us to utilize this new ability. To defeat these ninja jellies, we have to flip them over with a karate kick before we can finish the job with our bubble wand. After kicking enough of these little jellies, we finish this section and move on to the next zone. In this next area, we find a pair of golden underwear on the rooftops. Similar to Battle for Bikini Bottom, this awards us with an extra health point after being collected. Afterwards, we talk to Pearl, who asks us to deal with the paparazzi. We agree, and
I will make myself extra picturesque.
what the fuck? Alright, that was pretty funny. There's no way they overused that gag to the point where it becomes obnoxious, right? We deal with the paparazzi, which has us mashing buttons again. I'm having a fucking seizure right now, holy shit. Once this is done, we are allowed to proceed. Squidward has us shoot a few more scenes for him. First, we do this whack-a-mole style minigame where we karate kick the film crew in the face. Next, we have to run around and save citizens who got trapped under the rubble after an explosive bank robbery. After this, we have a slow-motion action sequence karate kicking our way across some boats. And finally, we chase the film's villain down in... I'm playing Subway Surfers now? This is perfect for my zoomer brain. We're dropped in front of a dojo where we first solve a puzzle so easy a newborn donkey could figure it out. Like, seriously, I think this would insult my intelligence even if I was playing this game as a kid. Another combat gauntlet follows, this time to save a paparazzo who is under attack by some jelly monsters and...
Thanks. I thought this film would be a train wreck, but the director went all out. Those jelly extras were very convincingly beating me up.
Okay, they're definitely going to drive this gag into the ground. Moving on, we arrive at the dojo and talk to Squidward, who tells us for this scene we need to scale the rooftops to reach our nemesis's fortress. We find a secret doubloon tucked away behind this dojo in this little parkour section and head up to the rooftops. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot to say about this section. If you played Battle for Bikini Bottom and remember the Sandy section in the downtown Bikini Bottom stage, this section is very similar. It's a lot of fun, but it's very long and consists of a bunch of platforming and combat, so while most of this part is getting cut for this video, I think it's worth mentioning that this is absolutely one of the better platforming sections of this game thus far. As we approach the end, we scale some cranes and make it to the fortress, which happens to be Sandy's treehouse. This means that our nemesis and final boss is Sandy. The first phase of this fight has us simply luring Sandy's wheel into a pile of explosives. This stuns her, giving us the opportunity to karate kick her and take a chunk of her health. After this phase, we fight off some enemies, then have to dodge Sandy's spinning top of death until she gets back into her wheel. We repeat the same procedure to damage her, and after fighting another wave of enemies, we dodge a rotating line of bodyguards before dealing the final blow. Squidward is ecstatic about how the movie turned out, so much so that he wants us to start filming the sequel right away. Just as he begins shooting the scene, we bring Sandy back home. In the SpongeBob episode Karate Choppers, there's this insane fan theory that the entire episode is just one big euphemism for sex. I know, it sounds crazy, and I'm not just making this up because I'm some weirdo on the internet who needs to get his mind out of the gutter. It's a real theory that someone came up with, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Seriously, go back and watch that episode, and every time they reference karate, substitute it with doing the deed. It's actually kind of hilarious. Once we're back in Bikini Bottom, we grab another side quest, this time from the nurse in front of Shady Shoals, which requires us to return to the movie set, so we'll deal with that later. In the meantime, we jump over the truck wreck to meet with the mermaid yet again. SpongeBob pleads with her to bring his home back, but she says she's busy cleaning up this mess. Instead, she slaps a new outfit on us and tells us to go through the next portal to find SpongeBob's home ourselves. We teleport to the new world, a tropical island world. Immediately upon arrival, we're getting barraged by explosive pies from Prawn's pirate ship. We evade his pie bombs and jump across the islands, eventually getting slingshotted to another island by our underwear. On this other island, we come across the Flying Dutchman. It turns out that the ship Prawn is commandeering is actually the Dutchman's ship that he stole, and he also has SpongeBob's pineapple aboard said ship. So we offer to assist the Dutchman in getting his ship back so that we can retrieve the pineapple. The Dutchman agrees, but says that we must first prove our worth as pirates by completing a series of tasks. First, we jump around to the various islands collecting the Flying Dutchman's stolen socks. After collecting the first batch of socks, we spot Larry captive aboard a ship. We surf over to the ship and are introduced to another new enemy. This enemy is similar to Chuck from Battle for Bikini Bottom. It flies around and throws projectiles at us, with the main difference being that we can hit the projectiles back at this enemy. We destroy the enemy and jump over to rescue Larry.
That obnoxious shrimp rounded us up and made his jelly minions stick us to shipwrecks all over the lagoon. He said we're not pirate material. It isn't my fault I have a severe eye patch allergy.
Alright, this gag is now officially unfunny. Larry mentioned some anchovies being held captive, so we take it into our own hands to rescue them next. We learn our next new ability, Swing. This effectively is just Sandy's lasso from Battle for Bikini Bottom. Wherever there is a fish hook, SpongeBob can simply lasso onto it and swing across gaps. We swing over to the next area where the anchovies are in need of help. For the first time in this game, the map presents us with somewhat of a non-linear section, which really is a nice change of pace. Using our new ability, we swing around breaking the anchovies out of their cages before already coming across yet another new enemy. This little square jelly flies around doing slam attacks on us, and once it is on the ground, we are able to hit it with our bubble wand. We defeat the square jellies, rescue the rest of the anchovies, and before moving on, we find a little secret. While I haven't been covering every single secret, I do like to make mention of the ones that do something well. This hidden tunnel off to the side presents us with a fun little parkour section that has us combining the karate kick with our new swing ability to retrieve a gold doubloon. Mini challenges like this, while pretty simple, are a lot of fun and remind me of finding some of the golden spatulas or Patrick socks in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Once we collect the doubloon, we surf to the next island, hoist the Dutchman's socks, which consists of more button mashing, and arrive at a sandcastle to collect the rest of the socks. We fight some enemies and scale the sandcastle, making sure to pick up the socks on the way. When we reach the top, we come across Mr. Krabs, who points us towards a treasure. One of the Dutchman's objectives was to find a pirate treasure, so we set off to collect it. We glide over to the nearest island, where there's a slingshot that we need to use to get to the treasure. Here, we talk to a mermaid that is just hanging out. We ask if she could create a path for us to reach the slingshot, but first she wants us to play a tune that's been stuck in her head. This results in us completing another toddler-level puzzle before finally shooting over to the island where the treasure resides and finally retrieving it. We launch back to the sandcastle and a new path opens up to the pirate port. Upon flying into the port, we go through another pretty long mixed platforming and combat section where we have to raise the last few socks. So we complete the task, and on the way we do another pretty cool platforming puzzle to retrieve a doubloon. Like, seriously, this is some really fun platforming. And rescue Jeff.
Oh good, these restraints are so tight, I can't feel my leg anymore.
After hoisting the final sock, we return to the Flying Dutchman as we are officially ready to take on Prawn.
The finest pirate I ever knew went by Jeff. So you can be, I don't know, square one.
That's not fair. I wanted to be square one.
Well, you can be
Square two?
sure, whatever.
The Dutchman gives us the game plan. First, we have to glide across these floating ships, making our way to the Dutchman ship. Once we reach the ship, we fight off a wave of enemies on the bow. After they're defeated, a path opens up and we have to fight another wave of enemies on the main deck. After this, we make our way up to the poop deck to fight the last wave of enemies. Are you impressed that I know the ship part names? Yeah, that's right. I know how to use Google and read a diagram. Upon clearing the final wave of enemies, we shoot the main cannon to signal to the Dutchman that the ship has been reclaimed. The Dutchman pops over and deals with Prawn while we take the pineapple back to Bikini Bottom. I've got another fun fact for you. Did you know that Prawn's first appearance was actually in the original Battle for Bikini Bottom? He never appears in the show until much later, where he's present in a single episode during season 13. I never knew that until, well, right now. But I guess I never really thought about it either. In fact, I'm starting to question whether I think at all. I mean, I am eating a sponge. Back in Bikini Bottom, things are starting to return to normal. One of my favorite things about this game is the way the hub world evolves over time. While most games take the approach of unlocking new areas in the hub world, or even having the player move to an entirely new hub world altogether, this game's hub is the same place the entire time, but it changes dynamically after each stage. This allows the player to become familiar with their virtual home throughout the course of the playthrough, while also making the player feel like they truly are rebuilding Bikini Bottom. Anyways, we slingshot over and talk to Plankton and Mr. Krabs. It turns out that with the Krusty Krab gone, the hungry villagers have been swarming to the chum bucket for sustenance. However, the chum bucket food sucks, and Mr. Krabs doesn't trust anyone else with the Krabby Patty formula for obvious reasons, so he asks us to whip up some patties for the villagers. We have our first minigame that isn't just mashing a single button, and return to Mr. Krabs, who gives us another side quest that we'll put in our back pocket for now. We talk to the mermaid again to proceed with the main objective. She slaps a flower costume on SpongeBob and directs us to the next portal to rescue Gary. After entering the portal, we find ourselves in Rock Bottom, complete with the vending machine Easter egg, but this time with a Halloween theme. Shortly after making our way deeper into the level, we meet our next enemy type. This anglerfish is similar to Sleepy Time from Battle for Bikini Bottom, except really lame. If you walk into this enemy's light, it will begin detecting you, and after a certain amount of time, it will freeze you. This enemy is extremely easy to sneak by, is way too forgiving with its attack, and I believe is only ever seen in this stage. As if this wasn't already super easy, the game also gives us a bush to sneak around in, as well as an attack that just lets us run up behind these enemies and kill them. Once we make our way past the anglers, we arrive at the city. Upon entering the city, we come across a snail trail. Our goal is to follow it, but my mind tells me otherwise. You see, this city is probably one of the best locations in this entire game. For once, we have an extremely open area with a lot of verticality and plenty of secrets to discover. This is the type of exploration that this game needs more of, and unfortunately there are very few areas that allow it, especially in the early stages. After exploring to my heart's content, we wind up on the middle platform where the snail trail leads us. We find Mrs. Fluff, who cuts us off when we ask about Gary to tell us she's busy organizing a snail race, and we need to bring her candy if we want to participate. So we set out to find some candy. We run around and smack every door looking for people to give us some candy. Sometimes we open the door to a trick and have to fight off some enemies, but eventually we find enough treats and return to Mrs. Fluff. We turn into a snail and... you know, some ideas should never make it past the focus group. Eventually, we inch across the finish line and come across another new enemy. Here we have the boxing jelly. It boxes, then splits into two smaller jellies when hit. If these smaller jellies aren't destroyed quick enough, they can reform back into the boxing jelly. We defeat the enemies and continue following the snail trail, which leads us into the next room. The first thing I spot is the golden spatula spinning around on a rooftop. We glide over to pick it up and quickly find out that this vantage point allows us to kind of cheese the objective in this room. There are 4 buttons we need to press to turn on the lights, and we're able to skip entire sections by just jumping to them from the roofs. While I imagine this is intentional to maybe give the player a bit of agency, which I do like, it does feel kind of cheap as it wasn't very difficult to discover and doesn't necessarily feel earned. Once the lights are on, Candy appears and tells us she'll open a pathway to the museum that the snail trail leads to if we can help put her little shadow puppet theater back together. We do another little puzzle to create... wait, is that the sash ringing, the trash thinging, mash flinging, the flash springing? Yeah, okay, it's the hash slinging slasher. Candy opens the door for us, and for the first time in this game, we slide our way to the museum. We enter the museum to find that the candy has turned Gary into a giant monster, and it is our job to stop his sugar rush and bring him back home. We begin by sneaking up to the first vending machine, using cover to avoid being spotted, and smashing the vending machine to cut off Gary's candy supply. We continue up the stairs, making our way to the next vending machine. We continue to use cover to avoid being detected, including hiding behind some snails to cross larger gaps, and smash the second vending machine when we arrive there. While Gary is in a fit of rage, we run up another flight of stairs, making it to the final floor. We repeat the process, utilizing cover so that Gary can't see us. This time, we also have to fight some enemies along the way, adding one final challenge to the gauntlet. After ducking from cover to cover, we arrive at the final vending machine and smash it, cutting off Gary's candy supply for good. He is still in a sugar-fueled craze, but with no more candy to consume, he should calm down with time. So, we have no other choice than to bring him back home. When I was a kid, the Have You Seen the Snail episode was one of the few things that made me genuinely upset. When I was really little, my family owned a dog, and we had to surrender it to another owner as part of a big move. So watching that episode really resonated with me because of that life experience. On top of that, that episode was just pretty grim. I mean, that closet full of dead snails really fucked up my undeveloped brain. The song though, absolute banger. I used to blast that shit on my iDog all the time. Anyways, that was kind of depressing, so let's get on to something more fun. Alas, we've returned to Bikini Bottom yet again, and once again it has evolved. We check out some of the changes, which includes us acquiring another side quest. Afterwards, we return to the mermaid who tells us she has the location of Squidward. She turns us into a caveman, or cave sponge? She turns us into Spongegar, and we jump through the portal to the prehistoric kelp forest. As soon as we enter the level, we're tossed into an escape sequence where we have to escape a collapsing cave. We successfully make it out and slide down a slope where we discover one of our final abilities. The Grand Slam is just our normal slam, but a grander, I guess. It has a bit of an area of effect, but more importantly, it is required to press a lot of buttons that we've come across throughout our journey. It's also required to destroy our next new enemy type. This massive jelly worm burrows itself into the ground, and we have to Grand Slam it while it's burrowed to stun and damage it. After successfully defeating the worm, we platform up the vines and glide into the next area. We fight through a series of combat challenges with some more platforming in between before finally making it to the top and finding Squidward. You didn't think it would be that easy, did you? I'm gonna be honest, this stage is probably the shortest and most linear stage in the entire game. There isn't much story or dialogue, and the entire level is focused solely on platforming and combat. That doesn't mean this stage is a bad stage. In fact, it's extremely fun to play, but it does mean that it's not very fun to watch, and I don't have much to narrate without it becoming repetitive very quickly. So instead, enjoy this short montage, and I'll see you at the end of the level. We're back, and the last stretch of the stage leads us to where Prehistoric Pearl is holding Squidward hostage. I'm not sure if she becomes upset because we stepped on her snail, or if she just is not very happy with our presence, but either way, our goal is to defeat her and save Squidward. So, the boss fight commences. We start by dodging a series of shockwaves caused by Pearl smashing the platform she is on. After successfully dodging them for long enough, 3 platforms arise from the lava around the edges of the arena. Our goal is to jump onto the platforms and destroy the tusks to break the tethered vines free. The thing is, we can only do one of these at a time, which means we need to repeat this process 3 times. Between phases, a few enemies spawn, adding a bit of difficulty as we now have to deal with them while dodging the next set of shockwaves. Once we hit the last 2 tusks, we're done with half of the fight. That's right, the hanging structure that the vines were holding up collapses and shatters the walls around Pearl's platform, and we now have another 3 phases of the boss to fight through. The difficulty ramps up a bit though, as we now have to also avoid Pearl's stream of tears every phase on top of the enemies and the shockwaves. Upon getting through one of these phases, the lava underneath Pearl's platform recedes, exposing 3 more tusks. We break the tusk, rinse and repeat, and once we're on the final tusk, we die. Luckily, we only have to restart from the second half of this boss fight, and after going through the motions again, we finally destroy the final tusk and defeat Pearl. We untie Squidward and escape with him safely back to Bikini Bottom. By the way, what the hell happened to Pearl? After we defeat her, she's not seen anywhere in the cutscene. Did we literally just kill her? Did we just throw her into the lava and vaporize her? I'm pretty sure that's a crime according to the International Whaling Commission. SpongeBob might have to contact a lawyer for that one. In Bikini Bottom, we talk with the mermaid once again. She seems eager to give us our new costume to enter the next portal, but we first have to help Squidward. It turns out he can still only speak caveman. We find some dictionaries that we give him so he can relearn his vocabulary and grab 2 more side quests, which are really starting to pile up at this point. Then we're ready to head into the next portal. We drop into a medieval fantasy world and immediately slide down a long rainbow. At the end of the rainbow, we fly through the window of a castle tower to find Pearl, the real Pearl from SpongeBob's dimension. We attempt to bring her back home, but she refuses. She says that she is the princess of this dimension and is about to have the biggest slumber party of all time as she slams the window on us. Our magic bubble wand gets knocked out of our hand and falls all the way down to the bottom of the tower, and we can't get out of this world without it. So we descend the tower and make it all the way down, ending up in a hedge maze. We find the bubble wand at the entrance of the hedge maze. Well, a piece of it. It turns out the bubble wand broke due to the fall, and now we need to find all of the pieces to repair it. We scour the hedge maze for the other pieces, eventually finding one piece within the maze and another at the end of it. The 4th one is nowhere to be found, so we head into another part of the castle to look for it. We arrive at the castle courtyard and find this dimension's Squidward standing in front of the castle gate. He denies us entry as we don't have an invitation, so I guess we aren't looking for the last piece of the wand in there. We decide to check the stable to ride a seahorse to another part of the world and search for the bubble wand, but the stable is locked. Our objective is now to unlock the stable, requiring us to find the key to the door. On our way, we find the second and last piece of golden underwear tucked away below the side of the castle wall, and continue searching for the key. As we jump across the wall, we stumble upon a few chests containing keys, but none of them are for the stable. Instead, these keys unlock the castle wall towers, allowing us to jump to the top of them and engage in a series of combat challenges. After each challenge, a button resides at the top of the tower that we are able to slam, and after activating all 3 buttons, a 4th chest is raised from the well in the courtyard below. Once we open this 4th chest, we finally receive the key to the stable.
Look, Patrick, have you ever seen such a majestic creature? The colorful mane, the sparkly eyes, and that piece of bubble wand in its mouth. Quick, we have to catch it!
We hop aboard the nearby seahorse and chase the unicorn down. However, while that is our main objective, that's not my main objective. You see, as we dash through this course, we spot a golden doubloon sitting upon some scaffolding about halfway in. My main objective is to grab that coin. How do I keep missing it? I don't understand. What the... This coin was ridiculously difficult to get. Why? Well, have you ever driven a car with lane change assistance and tried changing lanes without using your turn signal? I mean, I sure haven't. I always use my turn signal. Anyways, controlling the seahorse in this game feels just like that. It's terrible! Every time I try to veer across this gap, it feels like something keeps pulling me back, causing me to miss the jump over and over. Eventually, I was able to successfully execute the jump, but not before losing my sanity and wanting to execute this damn seahorse. We finish the rest of the seahorse section and come to a new area where it appears that a witch's hut is residing atop a rock in the middle of a pond. We scale the rock, and when we reach the top, we find a crusty old witch bathing in a pot of soup with the unicorn. We ask her if she can give us back the wand piece that the unicorn took, but she tells us not unless there's something in it for her. She requests us to bring her some pro-aging cream, which can only be found in the deepest, most dangerous part of the woods. Sounds easy enough, so we head out there. We make it to the next area where we start out by crossing a river. I spot a waterfall behind us, and everyone knows that there is always treasure behind a waterfall, so we go to check it out. Believe it or not, there is a golden doubloon hiding behind it. We move down the bank of the river, collecting the aging cream as we go. After jumping across a little Frogger platforming section, we find ourselves in a clearing surrounded by enemies. We fight them off and scale the rocks to find the last aging cream. We slingshot back to the witch's hut with the cream, who reluctantly hands over the wand piece. SpongeBob attempts to fix it with no success. Holy shit, SpongeBob, put that thing away. And the witch fixes it for us so we can leave her alone. However, we can't leave yet without bringing Pearl home with us. So, we head back to the castle courtyard and attempt to get into the castle one more time. A new face is standing outside of the castle gate, and tells us that there are 2 spots up for grabs in the band that will be playing at Pearl's party. We tell him we want to audition and are granted access into the court. We participate in a Simon Says style minigame, and completing it grants us access as bards to the princess's party. Finally, we can enter the castle. And once inside, we are faced with one last platforming section across some flooded barracks before coming up to the main hall. Inside the hall, Pearl appears to be upset, telling us that the jelly monster scared off all of her staff. With nobody to serve her guests cake, the party appears to be ruined. But luckily, we arrive just in time and offer to help her.
Let them eat cake!
Our goal is to deliver a slice of cake to each of the 10 guests. This sounds easy enough, but each time we deliver a slice, jelly monsters spawn in. As we continue to deliver more slices of the cake, the monsters that spawn in escalate in difficulty. And if we don't deal with them before delivering the next slice of cake, they can begin to stack up and overwhelm us. To make matters worse, the witch from earlier decides to crash the party, shooting magic balls at us that stuns us if we get hit. After delivering the last slice of cake, Pearl appears satisfied with her successful party and is ready to return home. Are you ready for another fun fact? I'm not sure if you already know this, but Pearl is based off of the sperm whale. But how did sperm whales get their name? Well, it turns out that sperm whales have a waxy white substance in their heads, called spermaceti, that they use to help them with echolocation. Whalers back in the day would see this and think it was semen. So, they named it the sperm whale. When we first started this game, I was a bit skeptical. I always thought the game looked fun, but I thought there was no way it could hold a candle to Battle for Bikini Bottom. The beginning stages of the game certainly didn't sway me away from that conviction either. The game is a lot more linear, and while the worlds are visually stunning, something about them just felt lacking. However, now that we're approaching the final stage, I have to say that the level design improved greatly as the game progressed. Nearly every stage is better than the last, and that last stage was hands down the best one yet. So, going into the final stage, I'm really looking forward to what it has to offer. We talk to the mermaid, who tells us she almost has enough jelly to fix this mess and sends us out for one more run. She tells us we're going to Glove World and slaps a fun glove hat on her head, but she says we need the breath of a pufferfish to get there. We run over to the boating school to find Mrs. Puff, but she appears to be stuck flying in the air. After helping her down, she hyperventilates into our hat and we float off to Glove World.
Mrs. Puff sure must have fun doing this all the time. Am I right, Patrick? Agent Poor Bearer calling for best friend support. Over. Patrick?
It turns out we lost Patrick during our descent, so now not only do we have to complete our mission, but we also have to find Patrick. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love this level. Right off the bat, we have Glove World's mascot Glovey Glove blabbering through the PA system like a Batman villain.
Welcome to Glove World! I'm your host, Glovey Glove, and I just glove having guests in my park.
Being an amusement park, there are also plenty of attractions for us to experience, with each one of them awarding a gold doubloon. At the start, we have another whack-a-mole minigame, as well as an extremely intense roller coaster where we have to collect all of the hearts. We also have another minigame that requires us to run around to find and hit gongs in a specific order. Moving on, we eventually make it to the Tunnel of Love. Here, we have a totally not out of place looking wall, as well as a line of boats that lead us through the tunnel. While this mostly just serves as one long and really fun platforming section, there is a cool hidden doubloon if you follow the boats backwards. This is one of a handful of secrets in the game where you have to walk off the beaten path to discover, and while I wish there was more of this throughout the game, it makes moments like this feel special. We make our way through the tunnel, and in the next area we learn the final ability of the game, the Reef Blower. Although this is more like a reef sucker? We can suck up objects and enemies to fill up a gauge, and once that gauge is full, we are able to shoot a powerful projectile. As we move to the next area, we can see this ability in action. Here, we also get introduced to the final enemy type of the game. This massive squid shoots projectiles at us that we can suck up with the Reef Blower to be able to shoot a projectile back at him. Once we do this twice, he is defeated. We arrive at the next set of attractions, including another shooting gallery minigame and my favorite, more button mashing. After this, we continue on and ride the Ferris wheel to the top of a mountain where we come across the Krusty Krab. We enter it to find Patrick held hostage by Glovey. Glovey has gone mad as the chaos we created in Bikini Bottom has driven business away from him. So we do what any sensible person would do and fight him in a battle to the death. We begin on a small platform facing an endless onslaught of jelly enemies. Our goal is to jump up and grab the Reef Blower so we can consume the jellies and shoot Glovey. After we deal the blow, he launches us to another platform. We're forced to fight off a wave of pretty difficult enemies before the path to the next Reef Blower opens up. Once the path does open up, we grab the Reef Blower, create a projectile, and shoot Glovey again. We're launched to another platform, and this time, instead of fighting off enemies, we have to survive Glovey's barrages for a certain amount of time. After surviving for long enough, the Reef Blower spawns in, and we grab it to deal the final blow. Despite beating his ghastly stiff face to a pulp, he gives us a final thumbs up before returning home with the Krusty Krab. That was the last stage, meaning this is our final visit to Bikini Bottom. But wait, didn't I say I was a completionist? I still haven't gotten all of the collectibles, and the side quests have been sitting dormant in my quest log the entire game. That's right, and the reason for that is because while I am a completionist, I also like to be efficient. You see, it took us until the final stage to get all of our abilities, and all throughout the game I've been haunted by these. Most of the collectibles are locked behind minigames in previous levels that require us to have a specific ability. To avoid having to run through these missions more than twice, I waited until the very end to do all of it. While I won't be going over every single bit of side content, I do want to quickly make some honorable mentions about the best and worst aspects. So if you don't care about this part, you can skip to the next chapter. I'm going to come out and say that most of the side content is really boring. Like I said earlier, I don't like using guides, so for most of this stuff, I ran around myself. A lot of the collectibles aren't too hard to find, but you basically have to replay the stages from start to finish to find everything. Pretty much every side quest is the same. Go into a level and find some quest-specific objects. There are a few level-specific quests though. The first one is in the Wild West stage and is probably one of the best combat challenges in the entire game. The combat in this game is really easy, even compared to Battle for Bikini Bottom. Enemies have less mechanics and are more forgiving, and SpongeBob now has a massive arsenal of abilities. However, this quest was a lot of fun. We just run around defeating all of the enemies within a certain time limit in this arena, and it reminded me a lot of the SpongeBob's Dream Challenge in Battle for Bikini Bottom. The next quest was back in Glove World, where we had to redo a few minigames, but with a bit more of a challenge, and one of the two minigames they chose was... Speaking of Glove World, the last golden spatula was here, and it was the only one I missed during the first run-through. I ran around for 30 minutes trying to find it, and wouldn't you know it, it was behind this out-of-place looking wall. This was certainly a cool secret, but kind of irritated me as it's the only time in the entire game where they did something like this. The last quest was in the Halloween world, where we are tasked with searching for the Flying Dutchman imposter and have to forcibly change their costume. I ran around this town for ages, running in circles over and over and over, and eventually I found him. 1 out of 3. Okay, so this is the one thing in the entire game I did have to use a guide for, because I spent way too long looking for these guys just to find out they're not even in this town. They're somewhat hidden in 2 completely different sections of this level, which honestly makes no sense. As for the doubloons, most of them are more or less the same. Find a button, do a little challenge related to a certain ability, get a doubloon. Some of them just feel downright pointless, like these ones in the pirate world where you just need to find and super slam a few greats throughout the level. And of course, the last thing I complete is the awards. Most of the ones that are left are challenges we need to complete during the bosses of each stage. I wasn't actually able to do these until after beating the game, but I wanted to mention it now. Some of these challenges were legitimately difficult and made me appreciate some of the fights a bit more. Anyways, everything is done besides the final boss, so we have one last thing to do. We talk to the mermaid for our last time when King Neptune shows up. He tells us the mermaid stole his bubble soap and will wield immense power if she obtains enough jelly. The jelly we just got for her. She begins charging up her strength when Squidward interrupts to yell at SpongeBob. The mermaid takes notice of his anger and transforms him into a gelatinous monstrosity. The fight starts in an arena where Jelly Squidward slams his tentacles into the ground. This creates massive shockwaves that we have to dodge. We run around dodging them until a reef blower spawns with a wave of enemies. We grab the reef blower, inhale the enemies, and shoot Jelly Squidward. Squidward becomes more aggressive, launching bigger shockwaves at us, and... wait, doesn't this look a lot like the Pearl fight earlier? Eventually, the reef blower spawns back in, so we grab it again, suck up the enemies, and shoot Squidward in the face. He's now enraged, sending out shockwaves at a marginally quicker pace. We dodge the onslaught of shockwaves, waiting for the reef blower to pop in once more. And when it finally does, we grab it, consume the enemies, and shoot the boss, leading us into the second phase. Wait, there's no second phase? That was the whole fight? Yep, that's it. That was the entire final boss. And just like that, we finished the game. After a long journey, I think it's time we circle back and answer our original question. Is this game a worthy successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom? And is it the revival of licensed SpongeBob games? Well, considering that the next SpongeBob game to come out was... Look, this game does a lot of things right. Despite a somewhat mediocre story, the writing is witty and the dialogue fully voiced by the original cast is incredible. Just like some of the classic SpongeBob games, it really does feel like playing through an episode of the show. It would have been great to include more of it in this video, but a lot of the cutscenes like to use copyrighted music. The visuals are beautiful. The gameplay and animations are smooth, and despite the numerous reused assets from Battle for Bikini Bottom, the game feels distinct enough. The level design starts out pretty weak, but by the end, some of the levels are simply incredible. However, the game isn't without its issues. For one, it feels like it's just lacking a little more polish. Most of the transitions in the game feel really weird, and picking up collectibles just doesn't feel very exciting. The more linear levels also take away from the overall experience, making it feel like you're just being shoehorned through the game rather than being given the agency to explore. Most of all, something just felt off. After I completed the game, I felt empty. Not because it was an emotional masterpiece, but because I felt like it didn't quite scratch that Battle for Bikini Bottom itch. I just felt like I wanted to go back and play that game instead. Maybe it's because of the issues I listed. Maybe it was the underwhelming finale. Maybe it's something else I failed to evaluate. Or maybe it's just nostalgia. Overall though, the game was an enjoyable experience, and the first step in the right direction for the franchise in over a decade. If Purple Lamp Studios goes on to create a sequel and can perfect their formula, maybe we can fully realize that 2000s nostalgia. But that has yet to be seen. At this point, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm honestly just so sick of eating this sponge, so let's get this last bite over with. Thank God that's over with. Wait, why? Me and my big fucking mouth. Come on, son, stay with me.